Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining at the Embedded Software Quality Trends track of Logic Technology at the Embedded World. This is a special way to meet all of you. Thanks for joining. We're discussing quality trends here, and my name is André de Ceuninck. I'm the product manager at Logic Technology. My focus is software quality solutions for embedded C and C++ software, and also anything related to generating code from a model. In this presentation, we will discuss some use cases from our customers, and hopefully you find that information useful for your own situation. We are happy if you get some ideas to take home from this. So our customers develop embedded systems, and they are really varying from airplane cargo load electronics to satellite equipment for the ISS, but also for ESA missions. And one of them was basically mapping the geometry of the universe. That sounded very spectacular. So they were investigating the black matter. But also we have customers building lighting systems. In this case, this is for an automotive application. So these teams building these products, they range from 1 to more than 100 engineers. But they all have very similar problems. They have the same challenges. They need to keep the quality of their systems as high as possible and face the increasing pressure from the market to deliver high quality products at time, but also at a competitive price. So that's really a big challenge. In these products, we see that software is the key differentiator. So it makes or breaks your system. And your system becomes more complex. So end users basically they have no patience, and they have very high expectations of you. Currently, there is more software in a car, especially in an electrical car, than in an airplane. You have to realize that in a car, there are roughly 100 ECUs controlling all the various functions in the car. Now, to keep up with the exponential growth of software, not only the automotive industry, but all other industries as well, they are adapting and looking for new technologies. They look for new techniques. One of these techniques is model-based system engineering, but at least they are trying to adjust and optimize the development of legacy embedded software written in C and C++. Unfortunately, it goes wrong occasionally, and we hear it in the news. So just last month, there was a European car manufacturer that had to call back 1.2 million vehicles. That was the entire production of a series of models that they started shipping basically 6 years ago. There was a software glitch in the emergency call system. So that system sends out a message, and that was wrong. So basically your help was not showing up. That's, of course, a major issue. Although it's not critical for the car to drive, it is a major safety issue. So they had to call back all these vehicles to upgrade. Another problem that the industry is facing today, and that example was led by Volkswagen, they had to stop some of their production lines just last week because there was a shortage on chip supply. So the semiconductor manufacturing industry, due to Corona, they shifted their output away from the hard-hit auto sector to serve other areas like consumer electronics or medical. So the industry is feeling the effects of the global semiconductor bottleneck. However, on the other side, Volkswagen is already investigating in developing flying cars in China at this point as we speak. Of course, there will be more software in these devices, and I'm not sure if I should call them cars or airplanes. So when it comes to development, every team and every engineer has his own ideas on what's the best way to do it. And in general, people only like what they know. So very often improvement programs that are started in organizations take too long to deploy. So there is internal pushback, or there's a lack of experience. There is always a reason not to change. So for several years, the agile development techniques and open source tools made their way into the safety industry. However, standards enforce full traceability and the use of certified validation and verification tools. Which approach works best for you depends heavily on your knowledge. And it can, at least partially, be based on open source, of course. And if you want to play it really safe, you probably go and choose a qualifiable tool that was certified by the authorities like TÜV. Or do you ask yourself, should I configure and try it to do it myself? That is actually a good question. And I'm not going to answer the question, but let me give you an example of what happened in the industry to some of our customers. At some point in the production, they ended up with a team of software experts managing and supporting the infrastructure. So they were just responsible for the infrastructure to develop and test the code that company was building. So they were busy creating tools like plugins for Eclipse, automated test platforms. They created the dashboard for the management and for themselves, and programmed report generators and all kind of nice features. However, a long story short, somehow it got out of hands. So finally, the organization realized, why do we have to hire so many experts? There were about 60 people in that team, just organizing the infrastructure. So the company realized that they turned down these activities because they realized this is not our core business. So efficiency is key. Logic Technology has been providing test and development solutions for almost 3 decades. Together with our partners, we see the fast-changing market, and we try to be prepared and help you with that. So now let's have a look at some use cases. So before a project is signed off, there is a contract. You are discussing with your customer from your side, and you can only start the project after you have quoted. People want to know how much is the cost. So that's the stage where you easily misjudge the additional work that is essential to follow the extra engineering activities to accomplish functional safety. Therefore, there are continuous cost overruns, and you are falling behind in the schedule. And that will not only have an impact on your revenue, but also to the reputation of your company. And it will lead to unhappy customers, or in the worst case, projects are simply cancelled. So qualification and tooling are a critical element that companies need to master in order to achieve functional safety through the ISO 26262 compliance if it is for automotive. So let's have a look at the real use case here. So here, the company is building automotive gearboxes, and their software was written in C and C++. They wanted or had to adopt by their customers again automotive spice. So their environment was based on a 32-bit high-speed, high-performance automotive MCU, and they had a lot of legacy software. They worked on that software for more than 10 years. So now the company realized to be future-proof, we have to change. We have to change the process on how we develop and build our systems. As they are developing products for the automotive industry, they also needed to comply to the ISO 26262. So that told them that basically the result of that is that they not only have to perform additional activities during the software development, but they also have to document all of what they are doing, and that across the whole product lifecycle. So they decided in an ALM solution. That's a good start because that's where it all begins. That is a tool that supports the whole process. So it's mandatory these days. But the problem with these frameworks is that they are too complex, or they are not flexible enough that they can easily be integrated in your environment. So you have to watch out which of these tools you select. Also, the ALM solution has to be open so it supports your infrastructure. So you can integrate additional tools that help you to create the traceability that you require. Of course, it helps you to manage your requirements. And that is important for any industry again. So it ensures that activities related to the software development are tracked, which is not only for the quality assurance team important, but also for the auditors. That's the first thing they will ask you. Where is your data? Where is the proof of everything you've been doing? And how did you do it? So to get instant insights to the exact project status, to control and plan and eventually adjust the ongoing activities, you should use an ALM solution. Also, the purpose of this is to find missing activities or unclarities related to the objectives as they were defined by the standard. Here, this customer had a complicating issue. They wanted to adopt new techniques like model-based system engineering. So they wanted to generate code out from their models. So we had to provide them with an integrated test framework that supports both C, C++, but also model-based system engineering. So they wanted to reuse their test cases, obviously, during all stages of the development, from model down to the end of line, including the hill testing. The next example is it's out of the medical industry, where people need to comply to the IEC 62304 standard. Also, FDA is applicable in this domain. So they built compliant devices to prepare samples for analytical systems in the medical field. In this case, they were basically doing DNA sample analysis. And they had a Devops environment in production. They were using that. It was based on GitLab. Then they extended it. We extended it actually with a certified code review solution that enforced everybody in the company to follow a corporate standard, which was based on MISRA. Then we also helped them to measure overall software parameters, quality measurements, as we call them. And this is now before the engineer checks in code, the quality of the software is checked. So he knows how good the software is. And that is done automatically. As a result, software functions now are more reusable or portable. So software functions can easily be transferred from one hardware platform to the next. Creating a new branch of software becomes essentially a matter of selecting the right functions and the right test cases, they are a pair, and reuse them. All of this is under version control in a central repository. Developers and testers can refactor code and tests easily. So if something breaks, they simply go back one stage or back in the past in their repository, take the last working code and adopt it from there again. And the same counts for test cases. So the most important objective here is to release stable software. Software that is not built on a regular basis is difficult to release. So that's why during nightly builds, they now perform automated code reviews and unit testing on the actual executed on the embedded target system. They publish all these results automatically on a central hub based on their ALM Studio product. So these results are always available to all stakeholders, internally and externally. So information like quality metrics, architectural information, data control flow reports, passed and failed tests are clearly reported and no longer require manual preparation by engineers or testers. So the goal was to improve efficiency and quality. So to visualize this process in some more detail, you can see this on the graph. So we have like a DevOps environment where the engineer is compiling and building his code. The validation and verification is automated using tools we provided, and all the results are actually stored back in the ALM Studio, which is the main hub, which is the central repository for all the data. So as soon as an engineer checks in some code, it basically, and he can test it on the hardware, when he commits the code, after he has checked the quality, there will be an automated build initiated. And during that build, as part of the build, there will be all validation and verification activities will be started as well. And again, the results end up in the ALM Studio product. Here they use some virtualization platform or some container system like Docker, which is of course, which is possible, works fine. We support that. However, they ended up with long build cycles. So this is something that we see more and more because project code size grows. People end up having more than 30 minutes, having to wait more than 30 minutes after or during a build, which is a problem. It's unacceptable, and that's something we can boost with some tooling to improve the performance on the build. So there actually, as a result in this situation, we had build times above 30 minutes. And the result after this optimization was that the customer ended up with an 8-minute build cycle, which is much, much better, of course. It's good for the productivity. So if you're interested in these solutions, of course, drop us a message in the chat box. Maybe some last remark here, although this was not the case for this customer, but if you are trying or considering to embed open source software into your product, again, what you see here is partially open source software, but this is like the backbone, the framework of your development infrastructure. It is not the code that ends up into your target. But if you embed open source into your target, you should be careful because you have to be sure that you understand what open source is exactly in your system. So for this, at Logic Technology, we provide an open source risk framework management platform, a solution that scans and finds security vulnerabilities in your open source code. And in reality, people don't realize, but 75% of customers, they are not aware of half of the open source that is in their inventory. So that means that there are a lot of unknown code, and of course that is a high risk. So you have to know what you embed in your system, because there are safety and legal risks involved with that. Our next example is again C and C++ code for a vision camera system, which is specific here is that it is used in both avionics and automotive industry. So it's a camera device that either replaces the mirror in the car, but also monitors the outside of the plane during flight, so that the information can be made visible to the pilot and the co-pilot during their flight. So, of course, that company has to master both standards. They need to comply to the avionics DO178, but also to the automotive ISO 26262. So they have a mix of the previous two examples, projects we mentioned. They are using the strict V model process for the automotive industry that is required, but they also like the benefits of an agile environment. As this was a medium-sized company, this is not a company like Airbus or that kind of organization. So they are rather small team of engineers with limited resources. So they wanted to share and make sure that they can share resources as efficient as possible. Also, they were using a requirement solution. In this case, this is Siemens Polarion they have been using. So during the CI/CD cycles, continuous integration, they were doing this also with Jenkins. They automated all activities as much as possible, reporting the coverage to all stakeholders after each build, including unit testing, again, on the target device. So once the tests are prepared, you can automate everything. So that provided them with a 360-degree traceability solution. All reports required for certification to monitor code functions and match that to their requirements. So they have the full traceability view. They know exactly what code is in the system and why it is there. And they also know exactly how it is tested. So that consistent environment supports both industry standards, and it helped them to manage the workload and efficiently deliver software on time. So the previous examples confirm that combining best practices from agile industry and proven validation and verification tools based on certified products with a high automation is the way to go to deliver software of high quality. As we say, the workload is increasing, so you need to do some automation to make up some time. It might be tempting to create and integrate various solutions in-house, but also, as you are aware, open source comes with a cost. You should not underestimate the long-term effect required to maintain an ecosystem, especially to stay in sync with new trends like additional virtualization tools, cloud-based hosting services, Amazon Web Services or Microsoft Azure environments, which become very popular also in the embedded industry. So you have to keep up with all these technologies, and they don't really solve your work, which is your developing your product. So together with our partners, we focus on providing proven solutions that help you to comply to safety and security standards and organize the software process as flexible as allowed. So you can focus on your objectives. So based on some real-world use cases from the industry, we just briefly discussed risks associated to choosing a software strategy for development and test. As our customers don't like to share their recipes, we were not able to close too much details. But again, if you develop C++ or apply model-based design methodologies, our solutions will help you to optimize your production process. So after all, there is one main message that we like you to take away from this presentation. That is that the safety processes are very clear and very well structured. They tell you exactly what you have to do, which is it's the good part. It's very easy. You just follow the cookbook. However, they don't tell you how to do it. This is where we want to help you. So we have the tools and our partners have the knowledge. So if you want to know more, come and talk to us. And do that early in the project, not after you have been discussing for 6 months with the auditors, and then they found out that you haven't done the right things initially, and you have to start all over again. That's unfortunately something that still happens. So do we have any questions that have been mentioned that are useful? Any feedback?
Well, first of all, Andre, thank you for the good talk and the information provided. Let me check on the questions in the chat box. Yeah, there's a good one here. How do you support the project preparation stage before you develop, build, and test software?
Okay. Yeah. True. We haven't discussed that subject very in detail. We've been looking more at the tool and the build environment. So before you prepare, as I mentioned before, we recommend to use an ALM solution like Cover ALM Studio. Again, the preparation is on the upper left side of the V model when we are discussing automotive projects. A requirement solution or an ALM, an application lifecycle management tool, allows you to define the system architecture. So it gives you a structure where you can basically, first of all, define the system requirements. What are you going to build? And then start decomposing it into an architecture with some hardware and some software functionality. And when we look at the functionality of the software, that is our expertise. You will have to start decomposing it in system level, high level, up and down to low level requirements. So you define your single functions and what they have to do and what interfaces you are going to use. And you describe that also in an architectural view. So it is good to have a link between the architectural view and your source code, of course, so it stays in sync. And then you start implementing the software as a software engineer. Yeah, for the planning stage, the ALM solution should be able to help you. Now, on the other, that's pre-development. When you then start developing and you are basically delivering first projects eventually, there is also a maintenance side of this. And there also, you also, as well known in the industry, you should consider a change management process. Some people call it bug fixing. It's maybe negative, but for sure your software will change over time. And yeah, for that, you need some solution that helps you to organize that. That's why it is important to have this downstream, up and downstream connection between the changes and the development and the requirements. So if there is an issue if you have to change something, you should be able to organize that. That's something you could do in Jira. That's a tool that is popular, so that everything is documented and changes are tracked in the system. So you can review it later if there are any discussions. And you can also assign the work to the right people in the team. And they commit that at some point they will change the code or add some code and commit it and add it to the repository. So this 360-degree traceability also has as a result, gives us an impact analysis view. So it gives you insights to the up and downward stream between a potential change and how much work will it be. How much does a little idea, a new feature, how much work is it for the team? Very often you change something on the upper left side and you didn't realize that on the right side something is changing as well in your system, which of course is a problem and requires a lot of additional work later that you didn't anticipate from the beginning. That's impact analysis, some visibility from the tooling we provide as well. So really, impact analysis helps you with understanding the consequences when something has to change. And it helps you to estimate the right cost to your customers. Okay, I think this ends our session for today. Let's go to our last slide. Sorry, I have to thank you. Thank you for your attendance. It's as I said, I prefer having a live stand and talk to you in person. But today we were able at least to share some information on real use cases from the industry. We discussed some of the challenges they face and the risk they have in choosing the software strategy, which is very important. A good start is very important. It's like breakfast. So if you haven't signed up for one of our other sessions, I guess tomorrow we have an interesting one on model-based development environment, the functional test platform we provide as well. This one goes into today we mentioned it briefly, that some of our users have model-based doing model-based design. Tomorrow we will go into detailed use cases of our customers doing this already. So maybe this is of interest. And of course, the other days of the week we are available here as well. I'd like to thank you for your time and being with us, and hope to speak to you soon.